Well, it's not hard to be reminded when the lights come on that it's time for us to start, isn't it? And Amanda, do we have a quorum? Thank you. Well, let's call to order the April 25th meeting of the MAPS 3 Citizens Advisory Board. Welcome. We're glad you're all here. I want to begin by saying that we were prepared to welcome a new member of our Citizens Advisory Board today, Councilman Pete White, who has been attending some of the subcommittees this week and was scheduled to be here. I'm told suffered a fall last night and is not able to be here today. And so we'll learn. I don't know any more than that. So we'll learn more about that later. But Councilman White will be the council member of our board for the ensuing year. You've been furnished with copies of the proposed minutes of the previous meeting. Are there additions or corrections? Bob?
Mr. Chairman, I have just a couple of minor things on item Roman numeral 2, the list of members voting. We still have Wayne Williams list. Didn't
All right.
catch that error. It should be Dr. Griffin. All the others reflect Dr. Griffin, but for some reason that line
Okay.
just indicates that Mr. Williams was voting. And a tiny, tiny nit on page 3, on the second full paragraph, I think in the middle of it says they are possible setting the precedent. I think possibly setting the precedent, just to be grammatically correct.
Any other proposed changes? Shall we approve the minutes as amended? Been moved
Second.
and seconded that we approve the minutes as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The minutes are approved. And now, David, the most exciting part of the day, the revenue and expenditure report, and Mike Adams got here just in time to look it over carefully. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have in your agenda the revenue and expenditures report for the period ending February 28, 2013. It's in its usual form. I'll go over it briefly. The revenue side for the month, it's $9,039,026. You'll see that it is a little below target this month. I think that's the first time in over a year that we've seen that, but as we've discussed, there'll be times when it's up and times when it's down. For the fiscal year, we have $71,037,917, and for total revenue so far in the program, $275,203,386. On the expenditure side, for the month, is $1,155,825. For fiscal year, $7,592,388. For total of expenditures of $20,459,728. I might add also that as requested this month at the subcommittee level, we provided budget numbers for each of the subcommittees that showed where we were as far as each of the line items in the projects.
Are there questions or comments? You don't have any, Mike? All right. Well, I do. Any others? Well, I do want to compliment staff on bringing to all the subcommittees, as the advisory board had requested, kind of a status of where we were on the spending. It I think gives us a sense of how we're moving on the spending versus the progress on the project. And it also, I think, has made us think about how we allocate some of the early costs between different phases of the project. So I think it's been useful already, even the first time we've done it. So, David, thank you for providing that for us. Are there any other questions? Then shall we receive the revenue and expense report? Been moved and seconded that we receive the revenue and expense report. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The report is received. Item 4, David.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 4 is receive consultant review committee report. and recommend resolution authorizing negotiation of contract with Cardinal Engineering Incorporated for the MAPS 3 Phase 2 sidewalk improvements, project M3-W002. This is Phase 2 of the sidewalks. As you remember, Phase 1 is in design, and actually the first project of Phase 1 was advertised for bids on Tuesday, and that'll be in 2 to 3 different packages, but this is Phase 2. This went through the usual consultant selection procedure that we've done with all the projects, and it's the same procedure that Public Works uses for all of their consultants. So the subcommittee and the review committee is recommending Cardinal Engineering for Phase 2 of the sidewalks.
Sue, you have any comments from the committee? Zane?
I'll step up here. T. Scott Buxton and I both, T. Scott's on the subcommittee, sidewalk subcommittee, and I both participated in the consultant review and approval, and I recommend that we proceed, so I'll make a motion that we recommend the resolution authorizing negotiation for the city to proceed into negotiations with Cardinal Engineering.
Is there a second? Been moved and seconded that we recommend this resolution approving the amendment, the consultant review committee report and the resolution negotiating the contract. Is there further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It is approved. David, item 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 5 is recommend resolution approving amendment number 1 to contract for engineering services with S2O Design and Engineering for MAPS 3 Oklahoma River Phase 3 Whitewater Facility. Fee increase of $2,541,016, project M3-R004. If you will recall, S2O is the engineering firm that did the conceptual and preliminary work for us on the Whitewater facility to make sure that the site was a site that we could use and that we should pursue. If you also recall, S2O has Scott Shipley, who is a Olympic medal winner in this sport and very well known for doing these whitewater facilities not only across the country but also around the world. So we're very fortunate to have him working on this project, and we recommend approval of the contract.
Great. D, anything from the committee?
The committee feels like we need to move ahead with this and highly recommends that we approve it today.
Any other questions or comments? Bob?
I just have a sort of idle curiosity. Why do we do this as an amendment given the size of the change as opposed to just doing a new contract?
We did the interviews like we usually do, and we broke it into pieces, not knowing if this site was feasible. So they did the feasibility study, and then just as an amendment to the contract to keep the same people on there, I would assume, so we don't have to go out and redo interviews and those kind of things. We feel comfortable that this is the people that should be doing the project, so it is an amendment.
And I certainly have no question or concern about that. It was just a lawyer in me said, why are we amending the contract by about, 10,000% or whatever the percentage is, rather than doing a new contract. We got to the same end point. It was just a matter of process and procedure. Curiosity on my part. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Shall we approve the resolution? It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution approving the amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It is approved. David, do you have any items under 6 for discussion or action on the overall project?
Mr. Chairman, we do not at this time.
Well, then that moves us to item 7, the subcommittee reports, and I want to begin with Mike Dover today. Mike, the committee had a meeting yesterday, and he has several things to report to us. Mike?
Thank you, Tom. First of all, I'd like to say that it's kind of with a heavy heart that, and we all know this, of course, but that 2 of our members just in the last 3 months, I guess now, have succumbed to cancer, Wayne Williams and Zora Brown. And we also have had a resignation of Alice Muser on our subcommittee, Senior Wellness Center subcommittee, but it has provided some opportunities for some new folks and some new blood and some new enthusiasm and excitement. I'm really happy that Gloria, Dr. Griffin, has joined us on the Wellness Subcommittee, and we also have Terry Watkins, who that name some of you know, has been appointed to our subcommittee as well. And so we met yesterday, and we hadn't met since December, since, as you all recall, the RFP was kind of in process, and we were waiting to hear back. And I'm very excited to say that we have had 4 responses to the RFP. Oklahoma City County Health Department, North Care Community Mental Health Center, Villar Rehabilitation Health, and Putnam City Baptist Church. So we have a lot of reading material. The interviews with those applicants to select the first Wellness Center operating partner will take place next week. I think it's on Thursday afternoon. And we hope that a recommendation will come from that meeting, from the review committee and that group, in the typical way that institutions and bureaucracies work, which is protecting the public for sure. After that recommendation will come to our subcommittee, and then our subcommittee will make a recommendation to this group, all in May. And assuming all goes without any hiccups, we hope that the City Council will hear our recommendation in early June, and we will have the first operating partner for the first Wellness Center.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions for Mike at all? Mike, remind me of this. The interview process and the review of these applications is done not only by the professional staff of the city, but it also includes some of your subcommittee members.
Yes, David can tell all who will be on that committee.
Well, I believe that you've asked Kenyon Morgan to serve in your capacity, and Dr. Griffin and Sam Bowman will be on that committee during the review.
And then the professional staff from the city.
Right. There's representatives from finance and from the municipal councilor's office and from Public Works and from the city manager's office. There's a large list of people that are involved in that process.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Nathaniel, report from the Transit Committee.
Yeah, we had a good meeting yesterday and heard from Jacobs and other consultants about planning for our maintenance facility, how they're going to go about determining where that might go and some of the criteria involved for that selection. And then proceeding forward with their own kind of independent yet well-informed route recommendations. So they'll take into consideration what our committee's talked about and also the alternatives analysis and other avenues, but then kind of come up with route recommendations that we'll see actually at the next meeting. And then the public can have a couple opportunities in May and June to see and to discuss the route recommendations and what that might look like. With the timeline being that in July, we should have a final route selected that we'll be able to review and then pass up to City Council. So that's all very exciting. And we got kind of a sneak preview of some of the utility investigation. We had already seen a lot last year, but they've taken it to a much more advanced level to see if there might be any utility conflicts, considering the geometry and requirements of a streetcar and the various streets where it may go. So a lot of work being done, a lot of meat that we can really to really contemplate and work with. So excited to see a lot of progress there.
Thank you. Any questions from the
I just want to add to it. I think that starting on May 9th, we're going to have a public meeting where they will see the same presentation that they're going to present to the subcommittee next month, I believe. Is that right? On the route selection. And then we will also, once they bring the route proposal to the subcommittee, then we will vote on it and present it to the advisory board.
Wow.
So that, I think in June, May and June, you'll see several announcements for public meetings.
All right. Mike?
Zane, since the first one, May 9th, is not too far from now, do you know the time and place for that? first meeting?
We have a tentative place, but I believe that there's, David, you may want to comment on that.
We've still got scheduling issues right now as far as finding a place that we think is big enough, so that'll be announced within the next couple of days.
Okay, and where will we find that information?
You can find that on the MAPS website.
Okay.
And there'll also be a press release
All
at
right,
that.
all right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Well, thank you guys for that good work. Sue, anything additionally that you want to tell us about sidewalks and trails?
Our first trail, we have 2 sections of our first trail, and we're in the process of acquiring the land right now. So we hope things go smoothly and that we're not into a lot of litigation over that, but we'll just see. And sidewalks, Phase 1, look for an announcement because that's the first project that's going to actually break ground and be finished. So that's going to happen this summer. And I think the committee would like to publicly just acknowledge the support and appreciation of City Council, and that they in fact have used the study that we, through MAPS 3, created and planned for sidewalks, and they're using that, supplementing the budget through city, what was it? Over fund balance, and $500,000 for each ward in the city will be expended on sidewalks. So that's $4 million additional dollars on sidewalks. We're thrilled that that's going to happen for our city,
That's great
and
news.
that we're using our plan.
Wonderful. Any questions for Sue? Mike?
Yeah. So those monies, will they be after Phase 1 and 2 and 3 of the MAPS monies, or will they be part additional sidewalks that will happen in Phase 1 than you originally thought?
They're not, those are not MAPS
Right.
projects, those are not MAPS funds, so city will do that when they're ready to, but they are using the plan that we created for sidewalks when we investigated the need for sidewalks. So we're anticipating actually that will happen this year. And there's a general consensus that our committee feels from City Council that they want to support this, and we'll try to support it again, even maybe next year with additional funds.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add that Public Works has advertised, like they do for other architecture and engineering services, they have advertised for those sidewalks. So that is out there, and it is proceeding.
Another question, I'm sorry. Sue, as I recall, schools were a priority, one of the priorities. Will all of the schools be done where there's going to be sidewalks in the ones that are selected? Will they be all done in Phase 1?
No, it just depends on where they fell in the needs study, but they might rise up now because of the different wards. So maybe.
Well, remember that
David.
the MAPS sidewalks were just for arterial streets.
Right.
With the MAPS for Kids program, we have built some sidewalks around a lot of the schools, but
Okay.
the MAPS 3 funds do not go into the neighborhoods. Now, Public Works does have, with their bond projects, some monies that they'll use in conjunction with the street resurfacing and things, that there could be some sidewalks put in the neighborhoods. That's still out there.
Other questions or comments? Well, thank you, Sue, for that report. Dee, anything from the River Subcommittee?
Yes, we especially want to thank you for approving the resolution today, because it's imperative that the water park opens up in spring of 2015 so that we don't lose a whole summer and going into winter, and it will make it much more successful. This weekend, the national team trials start, and we're using the starting gates that MAPS funded, so there's our money and at work. And this is, when it's not an Olympic year, the team trials are the equivalent of Olympic trials, so it's a big thing happening there. And the ropes course is up and working.
Wow.
So,
Do you have an event coming up on June the 29th?
we do, yes. And that is, it's to coincide with the Stars and Stripes River Festival, and we'll all be notified about that. It's a big event.
And David, that's going to be some kind of a dedication of one of the first math projects to be finished. You
Yes,
wanna
sir,
tell us about that?
that's correct. We will have the completion of the lighting project there for the race course. So we'll actually have the initial lighting and ribbon cutting for that project in conjunction with a large event that the Boathouse Foundation is having at that time, and I hope that you'll be there.
I'm planning to be there. That'd be great. Thank you. That ought to be an exciting big day, and we're all invited. So, yes. Did you say something wrong, David? You're turning off the lights. Bob, I know you didn't meet this month. You have anything you want to bring us from the fairgrounds?
No, the committee did not meet, so nothing to report today.
And David, I'm going to suggest if there's anything that needs to be reported about the park, you can do that in your report. And I want to mention, too, the Convention Center Subcommittee did meet, and it was a significant meeting. Sue and I were there, and some of you as well. I'm going to leave it to David to go through in his report the details of it, but I will say that you will recall, and we reported to you previously, that they had brought us in the previous month 3 proposals, and much of the conversation centered on would there be enough space for a convention center hotel, which would not be a mass project, but we were asked to take that into account in citing the convention center. And the consultants took all the comments that they heard from the public and from the subcommittee, and they came back and added a 4th proposal that David's going to explain to you. But it was, I think, a very exciting meeting as well. You want to add anything, Sue?
I just think they're looking for input and comments right now. So it's just opportunity for contemplation and discussion.
Absolutely. Okay, anything else then about the subcommittees? Then let's go to item 8 on the agenda, the informational items. David, you're going to talk to us about these items?
Yes, sir. You'll see on the screen, and you had in your agenda the park acquisition map, and you can see that northeast corner is now blue. So really all that we have still, so that we own the entire parcel for the park, are the light blue and that brown section. That brown piece there, goldish piece, is where the old ramp was coming off of I-40. So that is ODOT property that we're still working with ODOT on. And then the light blue is some ODOT properties also that we're working with a trade from all the properties that were exchanged for the relocation of I-40. So essentially the property is in either our hands or ODOT hands right now. So we're very close to having all the park property. And then also
that would be the upper park.
That's true, the upper park, and we have had some conversations with some people in the lower park, as council allowed us to have those conversations.
Great. Okay, but that's the next project.
That's right.
The lower park. Michael?
David, was there a particular dollar amount budgeted for the upper park for the property acquisition? And since we're so close, where do you think we're going to come out?
There was. We're currently under budget. I'd have to look up in my handy book here what that number was, or is. The upper section is $18,432,000. I know that we're under budget right now on acquisition. I can't tell you what that number is offhand. I didn't bring that with me. I can. Yes, sir.
David, you mentioned swapping some land. This is land the city, I guess, already owns somewhere else.
It is. It's some. I don't know, Amanda might be able to talk more about that, because a lot of those agreements were done before I was here, but it's with Public Works and some of the properties that ODOT needed for the relocation of I-40.
Amanda?
Right. There's agreements in place between the City of Oklahoma City and ODOT for swap of property that was needed for I-40's relocation, and specifically this property that was also used as part of the Skydance Bridge landing pad.
So you have other property somewhere else that they want?
The properties along I-40
Okay.
where it was relocated have already been deeded over to ODOT, and they have possession. Once the project's complete, we actually receive the deeds for these properties that are indicated in the contract.
So I guess just kind of expand on Michael's question, is that additional MAPS funds, or is that, we get that free as far as MAPS is concerned?
There were no MAPS funds used for the properties that were as part of the ODOT.
So there will be no more money expended for the Upper Park properties?
I'll let David speak to that.
As far as I understand,
Okay.
the agreement's already been struck, and it's really an exchange.
Okay.
I can find that out for
Well, I
you.
was just curious if, we were kind of asking if we were done. I didn't know whether there was going to be an allocation or something done there.
Well, to Michael Dover's point, if we're under budget now and all that's left is to swap, then we'll be under budget.
That's right.
Because there won't be any, is that what you're asking? There won't be any additional funds spent out of MAPS for the swap.
Right, I just might caution you that there could be some things up here in this ramp area. We're not sure about title issues, but
Sure.
In general, I think that we'll stay within or under budget.
Great news. All right, any other questions about the acquisition map? Okay, item B.
This is just an informational item on acceptance of a temporary easement that is for the trails. So it just comes to you for information only.
Okay, great. Okay, David, let's move to item 9, an update on the program, and particularly I want you to give us a little more information about the convention center.
Okay, well, let's just start there with the convention center. That, as you recall, Populous has been asked to do conceptual design, and they've been going through that process, have had meetings with a lot of stakeholders and user groups like we have with a lot of our projects, and they've brought to the subcommittee some different concepts to get input, and as Ms. Hooper said, really we're just looking for a lot of input and comments, and tell us what you think and how you think it interacts. And so they went back and fine-tuned some of their things this month, came back with actually a fourth option, and I think that may have been published today in the paper. You could see that. But it's a concept that hopefully addresses some of the concerns that were brought up, and that's certainly not written in stone either, because we are not only in the conceptual phase, but we're working through this. As many of you have seen us through the subcommittees, that's what we do, is we work through this in public now. So I think in the next 30 to 60 days, the Convention Center Subcommittee will start seeing something much more solid, and there'll be solid estimates and those kind of things, and be brought to the subcommittee for a decision. But there's still a lot of moving pieces when you think about the Convention Center because of its proximity to the downtown park and its connections with the streetcar and how it interacts with the Chesapeake Arena and the Myriad Gardens and everything down there. So, as I said, there's a lot of moving pieces they're still trying to work through.
The thing that I have left those convention center meetings thinking is that the site we selected will work in terms of size, and that it looks like we're going to be able to attain substantially our goals within the budget we have. And so those things are pretty positive for us right now, and as David said, it's the details of trying to have a plan where there are a lot more pros than there are cons, and every site's being evaluated on that basis. But so far, I think Sue and I are encouraged at the progress we're making because on the really big questions, we seem to be doing okay. There are a really lot of little questions and middle-sized questions left. So anyway, it's been encouraging to us. Anything else, David?
No, I think that pretty much covers it on the convention center. Everybody did such a great job with their subcommittee reports. I may not have a whole lot here on each one, but I'll add a little bit here on the river. Phase 2 improvements are in design, and that continues, and the windscreen continues in design. And as we talked about, the race course lighting is under construction and is nearing completion. Senior wellness, as was mentioned, we'll have interviews for the operating partner on May 2nd. Trails and sidewalks, we have one piece of Phase 1 of the sidewalks that are out for bid, and then we have the remainder of that still in design. And then, as we approved today, the second phase of the sidewalks, the engineering will soon begin. Fairgrounds, the Phase 1 grading is completed. Out there, if you've driven by, you can see the completed grading and detention pond and all the work that's been done out there, and also the Phase 1 Part 2 improvements, which is the parking that will be constructed out there, has begun. And the Expo Center is in design, and meetings continue to work through that. As Mr. Harding mentioned, Transit continues to work on the analysis of the line for the streetcar, and then the analysis for the Adventure Line, and purchase of the Santa Fe Station as the intermodal hub continues. And as far as the park, design on the master plan continues. Within the next 30 to 60 days, we should have a final master plan that we'll be bringing to you, and then we'll begin our Phase 1 improvements for the park, so that's very exciting. And we talked about the land acquisition and how it's gone very well. So we're still very busy.
Yes. Any questions for David at all? Well, thank you for that report. That brings us to item 10. I would invite any comments by any members of the board.
I wanted to add something. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention we had some citizens at our subcommittee meeting yesterday, and I want to make sure I kind of try to relay some of their comments and concerns that we discussed with them. And they're concerned about kind of the parking that might be, the parking situation around the streetcar, and they were asking, would you see a lot of cars kind of parking, let's say, on the north side of the route, people deciding to park there and then take the streetcar into downtown, and valid concerns, and we try to really discuss that with them. Some of the ideas that came out was park and ride concepts. We've discussed certainly before, and we need to revisit those. But also the fact that people don't often drive or walk very far after they park, so people would actually probably pay a little bit to park right next to a major stop on a part of the route, as opposed to parking for free, 3 blocks away on somebody's road right in front of their house, somebody else's house, and then walking to the stop. But we were very glad to hear back from citizens, because that we're starting to get to that point where it's getting real and people are noticing it, and so I wanted to make sure that was kind of on the record for our board here, and then just for our subcommittee that we'll be visiting a lot more about that as well.
Any comment, David, about that?
No, I think that some of, yes, I do have a comment. Some of those questions could be answered at the public meetings, or at least addressed, and it's something that the subcommittee will continue to work through and come up with solutions and strategies.
I might add, Nathaniel, in virtually every subcommittee, there is a discussion about parking, and I think the city is well aware of that. Just for your information, when the question about parking for the convention center, there's nothing budgeted or planned for parking, and with the plan that we've seen with the convention center hotel, there might be an accommodation for parking with that. So in virtually every subcommittee, there's a discussion about how we address the issue of parking, and I think it's on the table with every subcommittee, and it's being, discussed.
I might add that COPPA is doing a study for parking in downtown, so that is being looked at.
Anybody else? Well, then we would... Yes, I'm sorry, Dr.
I just want to thank David and his staff. I had a chance to meet with them last week, and they gave me a wonderful overview of MAPS 3. I was really impressed with the White Waters project. It's very exciting. And they also provided me with the sidewalk project. And I can appreciate the priority criteria, and it helps me to better understand the manner in which we're working. So I want to thank you all again, staff.
Well, we're glad to have you among us. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Any staff members? Amanda, you have anything you want to tell us today? All right, well then we want to invite any citizens who are here who might want to address the Citizens Advisory Board. Any citizens? If not, does someone want to move we adjourn? We've completed our business. Is there a second? All in favor say aye. Against no. We're adjourned. Thank you for coming today.